Welcome back to the Better People Podcast. It is 2026, and I've learned so much in 2025. And my word for the year is audacity. That old Cherie Haygood would have the audacity to do something audacious every day. This podcast is a part of that. I had the audacity to record it yesterday, and despite the fact that it didn't come out the way that I wanted it to in terms of the quality of the footage, and both of us aren't on the screen at the same time, I am having the audacity to put it out there anyway. This is a conversation between my brother and I, and who has been away from us for 43 years. Remember, I believe the fastest way to understanding is by listening. And so I hope that you enjoy your listening. And by doing so, become better people. Welcome to the Better People Podcast, where many of you know that I believe the fastest way to understanding is by listening. And many of you, not all of you, know how excited I've been about my brother returning home. And so I would like to introduce you to Raymond Washington. Obviously, this is him on the screen, but you're going to get to know much more about him over the next few, and I say few lightly, minutes. And so, without further ado, I asked him to be the first guest for this podcast for the year 2026, because this is my relaunch. And last year, I had a very difficult time getting all of my content out because there was a lot of editing that was involved. And this year, I don't plan to do much editing. So you guys are going to get it raw. You're gonna get it the way that it is. Let me just say it that way. And so I'm really excited to get some things out. Now, my brother's going to be here with me many times throughout the year. So today is just an introduction. And so I'm much, 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 much younger than my brother. And so I'm sure you could tell. And he's much, 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 much older than I am. And so his little sister is really excited to have him on here. But my brother has been gone for 43 years um, and
What?
over 44 years. Okay. I actually started with 42, then I realized it was 43, and now I understand it's 44. It all feels like a long time to me. So anyway, we'll get into a lot of things in 2026, but today I just want to introduce you to him. I have I have several questions, many questions that I'll be asking him, and we'll just see, and you'll learn much about him. So, Raymond, is there anything that you want to share about yourself before we get started?
Well, I'll start off by saying that I have had a long road that is I could took a lot of detours, uh, putting it mildly. Um, Biggest detour was through prison because it lasted the longest. But unlike a lot of black men my age and from that era, uh, we had to visit those places because of I guess, our faulty belief systems, uh, the things we put value in, the things we put priority, we chose to make our priorities, such as gang life, putting money before substance, um, chasing that fool's goal. And I don't think I'm unique in that aspect. I think, because, in no way can I be unique in that aspect because prisons are full of these stories. I mean, starting in the 80s, when the prison boom began and all the different laws that were passed it was basically lock and throw away the key type laws through the 80s, uh, then through the 90s. And so I don't think my story is unique because the prisons were filled with people just like me. So, and went through these same growing pains. But like I said, I don't believe my story is unique. Uh, I believe that the black man's story is somewhat unique in some aspects because we constituted at least 45 to close to 50% of the prison population through that time, and uh, it hasn't really changed that much. So in that aspect, our story as black men is somewhat unique.
hmm Listen, can y'all see already how, listen, I'm so excited. This is my brother, and to share this platform with him, I can't tell you. One of my friends called me the other day and said, "Girl, have you stopped smiling yet?" And no, I just haven't. I just haven't. So I'm really excited for you guys to journey with us as we discuss many, many things. But like I said today, this is an introduction. And so my first question to you, Raymond, is after 43 years, what does it feel like to introduce yourself to the world again?
Well, initially, like I said, and y'all, when I say y'all, I'm talking about my family. Y'all witnessed my joy. You witnessed the initial, my initial walk, through those gates. You filmed it, you videoed it, you shared it with me, and I shared it with all of you. And I couldn't think of a better way to do it. I was so glad that all of you decided to come pick me up as opposed to let me catch a bus or a train or something.
Yeah,
And y'all
yeah,
meet me at the train station. I
of
wanted I,
course.
I wanted to share that moment of those initial steps, outside those gates with my family, and it was surreal. Just to be
Yeah.
honest, the moment I woke up and I could barely sleep that night when I knew it was the night before. And I don't think I got any sleep. I was up ready for the door to come open. And I just knew something's gonna go wrong. I just knew something. Something. It was just surreal. It just can't be happening after 43 calendars, and this 43. I mean, should I say 44 calendars? But it was actually 44 years, 11 months, and 9 days. So it was
Wow.
almost 45 years
Wow.
to be exact. Who's counting? But anyway, you know, but it was surreal for a long time. And even after I got outside the gates and we drove off and we were making our journey back towards Southern California, we were making stops at these new establishments that weren't even in existence when I left the street, especially like Starbucks, Whole Foods, and places like this. And walking into these places and feeling this energy now, this new type of energy. I'm walking around now without any restraints on. I'm walking around now able to, pick what I want, you know. Uh, Walking through self-checkouts was like, what?
Yeah.
They trust us to check our own food out? Wow, uh, seeing how insignificant cash currency is becoming. I say it's significant. Everybody likes money in their pocket. It's not like having, dollar bills crumpling in your pockets, but nowadays, you're swiping cards. Now everybody's swiping cards now. These were new experiences for me. It just so happened, and it's not so much that I was overly conscious about it, but I was somewhat conscious about it. It just so happened that a lot of the establishments that we were stopping at were in areas where majority populations were white people. So majority of these places we were going in, that's who would be in there. So I became, kind of conscious of that. Every place we stopped, I'm like, okay, I'm looking for black people, you know, and that's just me, that's just
Yeah,
me, that's just
sure.
me. But like I
No,
said,
that's I would
yeah,
say that that's what black people do in general. We got to check for safety.
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
what yeah,
exactly.
okay, we good. Okay.
So, going through that, and like I say, just being able to step out of that car, that SUV we're in, without because normally if I'm stepping out of a vehicle, it's because I'm being transported from one prison to another, or from a prison to a medical facility or something like that. And I'm usually stepping out with waist chains on and and shackles on my ankle. So I'm stepping out of this Cadillac SUV, and there are no shackles tugging at my ankles. Um, there's no correction officer with his hand on me, restraining my movement as
Yeah.
I'm stepping, as I'm taking these steps. You
Yeah.
know, all these things are, are playing in my mind, and all the time I'm really thinking I'm finna wake up, and this is all gonna be a dream. This is gonna be a cruel dream. I'm just,
Yeah.
and so, all these things are just running through my mind all at one time. And I'm processing them. I'm processing them, and it's and I tell you not, it took about almost. I've been out. Today is the 13th of January. I got out on the 9th of December. It's almost taken this long for me to realize that I'm not going to wake up from this. This has happened. This is real. This is this is reality. This is you know
I know.
and
I was trying to pinch you the other day. I actually did you want me to pinch you, and see if it was a dream or not.
Right, right. And when you do a long stress like that, you know how many times you have a dream and you're thinking you're out, and
Hmm.
the next thing you know, you're hearing your door open, talking about it's chow time,
Yeah.
or you hear your cellmate flushing the toilet or something that wakes you up. You're like, "Hmm," you know? So, so, but like I say, this became reality, and like I say, uh. I'm feeling pretty good about it actually because I with the help of my family, uh the support I had you know throughout this journey, but in particularly when uh I made the conscious decision to do what I needed to do to move on from that life and come back to free society.
Hmm.
Uh when I finally made that decision, it gave my family confidence that they weren't making a bad investment in me anymore. And I could see that
Hmm.
they could see the change in me. They were confident that was this is what he really wants now. Let's get behind him. And
Hmm.
in every avenue I found support from my family, so it helped me mentally prepare, mentally as well as emotionally prepare for this reality.
Hmm. Hmm.
And that support has made the difference between processing this in a positive way as opposed to being overwhelmed by it. And it's been good. The experiences have all been good up to this point. And I'm not so naive to believe that, everything is going to be, hunky dory. I know there are going to be challenges, emotional challenges, physical challenges, mental challenges, but I'm prepared for them, I'm really prepared for them.
I love that. The next question that I had on here, you may feel like you've answered it already, and if so, that's fine. But the question that I wanted to pose is that when people hear 43 years, they imagine a number. What does that span of time actually feel like inside a human body? And now, actually, as I read it, maybe you haven't answered the question, or maybe you answered it a bit and want to expound on it.
Well, what does it feel like in the human body?
Yeah, what does
Well,
that span of time feel like in a human body?
uh, for myself, I can't really answer for other people, but for myself, um, I'll go back to when uh, I got sentenced. And that's when it began for me. And when I say began for me, that's when the process of how I was going to accept or reject this sentence. And when I say accept it, the only other choice would be when I say to reject it, but to reject it would mean that I would probably be living in denial because I was sentenced. and there's no getting around that. So for me, there was no alternative. I had to accept this,
Yeah.
and even in accepting it, there was a decision that had to be made on my part. How was I going to do this time? Because when you're 18 years old and you're sitting in court and you hear the judge say whatever the number is, and then at the end of it, life, whether it's 25 life, whether it's 15 life, and you hear that life at the end, that L word, uh, that sends you into well, I can't say about everybody, but it sent me into a specific space where I had to um, find a coping mechanism. And my
Mhm.
coping mechanism was denial.
Mhm.
Not denying that I got this, but denying that it's going to that it matters. I had to act like it
Mhm.
didn't matter.
Mhm.
It didn't matter. Uh, to do otherwise, for me at the time, felt like it would be unbearable. Because to
Mhm.
do otherwise, I would have to continue to think about this bad decision I made that got me in this position, all the things that I'm about to lose out on. When I say lose out on, time with my family, my freedom, the ability, my physical movements, being now, uh, you feel like you're captured. Now you're captured, you're changed. It's mental first.
Yeah.
Even though there is a physical issue here of being changed. You do have
Yeah.
change, but I'm talking about this physical, emotional feeling that you're going through. So, to be honest, it was like a light switch in my head that I just decided to turn off, and that was
Mhm.
it. That light switch turned off all my feelings, all my emotions about this, and I became numb.
Mhm.
And that was how I chose to deal with it.
Mhm.
Uh, Leaving court, understanding that in about a month or so, I'm probably going to be taking the bus up to a prison, and that's going to be my home for whatever this judge said. Uh, just act like it didn't matter. The
Mhm.
alternative was to continue to think about, dwell on all the things I'm going to lose, think about all the things I'm going to miss, think about how my family, how they're going to take it, and most of all, my mother, because now I have to tell her. I know because she's going to come up and see me and ask me uh, what the sentence was. And that was one of the most dreadful days of my life to have to
Mhm.
tell my mother that I got a life sentence. And actually,
Mhm.
it was 27 to life. And I don't think, and I don't, well, I think I consciously tried to shield her through the court process because I didn't really want her to know what I was facing.
Yeah.
And because she was powerless to do anything about it.
Sure.
And her financial situation wouldn't allow her to hire me a effective counsel. Um, it was just a lot of things that I tried to take on uh, and not involve my mother because I understood how it would make her feel, but I couldn't get around this date that I knew was coming. She was gonna come visit me that a couple of days later and find out to ask me how much time I got, and that meant I could no longer keep up this facade that I got this, it's gonna be all right. And I had to finally tell her, and that was the most dreadful day of my life. You could tell my mother how much time I had, and I never forget. She sat behind that we sat there with that glass between us with that phone, and when I said those words, it was like time stood still for a second, and
Mhm.
the tears welled up in her eyes, and it was like it was dreadful. And
Yeah.
you know, but again, I had to turn that switch off, and after that visit was over, just decided to just go numb.
Yeah.
And so for me, again, I know that was a long spiel, and I didn't really answer your question, but I'm going to answer your
Well, I
question
feel like
now.
you did. Oh,
Oh,
okay.
okay.
Yeah, go ahead. No, I mean, if you feel like you
Right.
have more to say about that, then go ahead.
Yeah. Well, I want to kind of expound on it a little bit. Like say, after that, I got that hard part out the way. It was about now, for me, uh, in my mind, manning up and dealing with this, you know, uh, again in denial. Because in my mind, I was telling myself, well, I'm going to beat this on the pill. I ain't worried about it. That's how I got through the first couple of years, thinking that,
Yeah.
a pill is going to get me up out of this. And went through that process, uh, received a decision from appellate court, denied. And by that time, I'd already chose a path in prison to deal with this in a way that was kind of self-destructive as well. Uh, Prison was a different beast than it is now. It was very violent. Uh, Inmates basically ran prison at that time. The powers to be allowed uh, the patients to run the asylum back then. And when you
Hmm.
allow the patients to run the asylum, that's always a recipe for disaster. And
Sure.
but that was the way prison was ran back then. As long as their philosophy, as long as we're not endangering or harming staff, let them do what they want to do. And violence was looked at as a necessary inconvenience. And
Mm,
they saw violence as, well, that's the way they maintain order with each other. So let them do what they do. So I'm 18 years old coming into a world where might is always right.
hmm.
That uh, learn that quick.
Yeah.
No one's gonna save you. You
Yeah.
learn that quick. No one's here. There's no one here to save you.
Yeah.
All those years of, when your parents came and got you from the police station when you got in trouble, that's over with. And
Yeah.
now it's time to man up. And these are different rules than you may have been accustomed to. But anyway, the way I dealt with that was to become a part of the environment
Hmm.
that was around me, become a part of
Hmm.
it, and do my best to excel at it. And when I say
Hmm.
excel at it, excel in negative behavior, self-destructive
Sure.
behavior. That's the
Sure.
way you look for. First thing you start looking for when you hit a prison yard is respect.
Hmm.
you know. And I mean, you all we look for that anywhere we at, but specifically in these prisons yard where these are communities, tight communities with walls around them, and uh, the real you is going to show.
Yeah.
Is going to show because there is not a lot of space. You know,
Yeah.
you are who you are is going to show. Is going to be tested, and the last thing I wanted to do was show any signs of weakness because people prey on that.
Yeah.
So I chose to become a part of that environment of madness and do my
Yeah.
best to excel at it because I figured that was the way I was going to get by this. So that
Hmm.
means so that took another level of denial that this choice I'm making to become a part of this environment is cool. I'm denying that this is self-destructive,
Yeah.
denying that this is harmful not only to other people, but it's harmful to myself. It's harmful to my my sanity.
Hmm.
It's harmful to my ability to relate to people as a human because your humanity gets lost in the
Yeah.
mix of all that.
Mm,
So,
mm.
like I say, how that looks 43 years. For me, I just didn't think about it. That's how I got by. I
Yeah.
didn't think
Yeah.
about it. I
Yeah.
didn't I didn't allow myself to try to measure time in days or
Mm-hmm.
minutes or months or weeks. I just lived
Mm-hmm.
every day.
So, was there a moment or a season when something shifted internally for you?
Yeah, the first uh the first shift for me was the death of my brother.
Mm,
Uh by that time I'd been down about 7 years. And in that 7 years, I had completely turned my humanity off. And all that mattered was my respect. All that mattered was how my peers felt about me, how correctional officers looked at me. I wanted them to look at me as somebody that's not to be messed with, somebody uh, uh, who is worthy of their respect.
Hmm.
When I found out that my brother had passed, and again, this was the second most stressful day of my life, and it involved my mother again, because I was brought down in shackles to a counselor's office for a phone call. And and I was in segregated housing, I was in the shoe, I was in the hole. You know, when you get in a phone call and in those kind of housing units, it can only be for an emergency or death in the family. So when they take me down there, I'm knowing it's bad news. So get down there, and when they tell me your mother wants to talk to you, automatically I know it's not her. So, but just as quick as that relief uh, lifted, it dissipated because it's still somebody, and it's
Hmm.
somebody close.
Hmm.
Though it's not my mother, it's still somebody. So just as quick
So
as
what
that,
you're saying is that you knew when you went down that there was probably going to be, you were going to hear some bad news. And
yes,
since once you found out that it was mom, you realized, okay, it's not her, but you knew there was still something.
right,
Okay. Hmm.
exactly. So they give me the phone. I'm sitting in a chair, shackled, and I'm holding the phone up to my ear, and I hear her voice, and I can hear the pain in her voice. And she says, "Well, I know you know something happened." I said, "Yeah." I said, "Who, mom?" And she paused for a minute, and she said, "Hassan's dead." And I lost it, man. All that trying to be cool and trying to be hard and all that, man. I fell out the chair and was crying like a baby. And
Yeah.
they had to pick me up out the chair, sit me in the chair, back up in the chair, and then the one of the CEOs said, "Hey man, your mom's on the phone, man. Hey, come on, talk. Your mother's here. Take the phone." So I took the phone back and I recomposed myself, and she continued to tell me what had happened, and to hear the circumstances made it even worse because it was the circumstances revolved around him being killed by someone uh, who was from our own neighborhood that I would have referred to as a homeboy prior to that. So that just made it even worse. And after the conversation was over, it escorted me back to my cell. And it just so happened at that time I didn't have a cellmate, and which was good at the time because it gave me a time to mourn without having to explain to be concerned about what somebody else was going to think or have to answer questions from, even though they may have been well-meaning, I didn't have to deal with that, and I was I was grateful for that. But anyway, that was a jolting moment for me. It made me decide that something has to change. Um, but still, I got this sentence over my head. How was I going to do the rest of this time now? Now my brother's missing. I got this burden on my shoulders. My brother's gone now, and how am I going to deal with this? How am I going to go forward? So what it made me do though is made me decide that I need to get out of these segregated housing units. These they refer to as SHU, segregated housing SHUs. Uh, I've been I received a long SHU term because I continued to act up while I was back there and continue to extend it. So that was in '88. I wasn't supposed to get out till '94 of the SHU. I made a conscious decision that I need to get out the SHU. My reasoning for doing so wasn't necessarily as genuine. My reason for wanting to get out the SHU is so that I can be in a position to catch this guy who killed my brother. Because as long as I was in the shoe, my brother wasn't going to see him. So that was the first jolt I had.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Hmm. Yeah, I know that like I've said, we're gonna have many discussions and maybe we'll come back around to what that moment did and how things kind of panned out there. Obviously you're talking about me when you talk about your family and as well as my brother when you mention him. And
exactly.
so as you share about him, obviously I'm transported back to those times as well and remembering a lot and not just as it relates to that but even when you talk about respect and the power of it actually um I know it's completely different inside of the prison system um and but it's very much a part of street culture and I realized how impacted I've been by street culture even though my audience isn't that familiar just yet with what my life was um in that way. Although I have invited some of my what I would call now my friends, but my homeboys to come and maybe we also chat about that. But when you mention respect, that's a priority for me, not only to give, but also to receive. And it shapes a lot of my thinking, a lot of the ways that I engage people. One of the things that's one of the things that hits the hardest for me. Don't be disrespectful. Now, playfulness is one thing, but like legitimately being disrespectful. And one of the things that I say is I'm not disrespectful. So I feel like I've offered you respect. And so, give it to me in return. But I understand, that should happen, period, as human beings. But it is embedded in me because of the street culture. So when you said that, I was like, yeah, so absolutely, I'm sure that it is in that world as well. But I guess the next question that I have for you is, um, how did your understanding of yourself change across the decades? And then the next one that's partnered with that is, who were you at the beginning compared to who you became?
Mm. Wow, that's a good question. At the beginning, I was a very selfish, self-centered, materialistic, flawed individual. Uh, my value system was based on things that didn't really have any substance. Uh, I was of the thought that uh, if you weren't, if I didn't have a personal connection to you, then you were fair game.
Mm,
So morality, ethics, other than the street code, didn't exist in my life. They said there's honor among thieves, and there was a time where that may have rang true, but as we know, that's that's just that's just some people say nowadays. There's really no substance. There's no honor among thieves. Uh, Not no true honor anyway. But the person I was at the beginning of this journey was not a good person. My ability to think forward was flawed. I didn't have I didn't have what they would call consequential thinking. I didn't think about the consequences of my actions. When I did something, I was very impulsive. Um, I when a situation arises, I just reacted as opposed to respond. Not a lot of thinking went into it, so I was not a consequential thinker.
hmm
I was selfish, materialistic, greedy. And as I look at that now, to even say these words as I'm describing who I was then, it kind of pains me, to some degree, because with each one of these, I call them character flaws. They were victims, not necessarily people who were harmed physically by a person with those character flaws, but emotionally, like my family. My family, most of all, was harmed by my behavior at the time. Emotionally, they were harmed by it. My absence harmed them by it. I didn't think about these things. I wasn't the type of person that thought about or even took the time to even, I guess the word would be, I was apathetic at the time.
Mhm.
I had no empathy, and I had no conscience
Mhm.
when it came to the things I was doing at the time, and that was how I kind of got by.
Mhm.
Because if I thought about or was always conscious of the consequences, not only for myself, but the consequences that fell upon other people, I probably, would have I probably would have been running around here, because that, having a conscience in the street it's not a, it's not, it doesn't serve you well. It really doesn't.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
I had to turn it off. But when I look at who I am today and look back at those character flaws of those times, uh, I'm a person who has, I do a lot of consequential thinking.
Mhm.
Before I do anything now, I look to understand how it affects not just myself, but the people around me, the people who care about me, people who are emotionally or even physically invested in my behavior. Uh, I'm also a person now who sees the damage uh, that I've caused and no longer want to cause. Uh, I think about behavior uh, that not only I displayed, but just the culture of the time, you know, in our communities, and not in the culture. What I mean by the culture, the give me mine. As long as I get mine, I ain't worried about it. What everybody else is going through, that me. I look back at that and I can now understand how detrimental it was to our community, to our
Mhm.
families, to
Mhm.
our future, how we basically kind of like sold out our future for a little bit of something at the moment.
Mhm.
I couldn't think about these things. I didn't have the capacity
Sure.
to think about these things or even consider these things back when I was a teenager. These are things that are habitual now in my life.
Mhm. Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
habitual now. You know,
Wow.
uh, yeah.
That's awesome. I love that. And I think you know, I think the fact that you're able to assess the difference is a really powerful thing, a powerful tool, and also a powerful way to live. It creates opportunity for continuous transformation. And so I'm going to ask you this last question, and obviously we'll be coming back to the table again. But let me ask you, um, what did time teach you that you couldn't have learned any other way?
Hmm. When you say time, the time I did, or time just in general?
I mean, I would say whichever way it resonates with you. When you hear that, when you hear it, what way?
Well, I honestly know that, and I'm mature enough to admit that had it not been for me going to prison, uh, I'd have been dead now. The lifestyle I was living, it couldn't have been any other way. And I would like to have believed that there would have been some other type of intervention that may have deterred me from the path I was on. But
Hmm.
I thought about it and I thought about it, I can't see, or I couldn't see anything that was present, but that would have deterred me from the path I was on. So I
Mhm.
honestly think that had it not been for going to prison, I wouldn't be here today.
Mm,
Uh, Time has allowed me to actually see things in their real form.
mm,
And what I mean by in their real form, uh, me as a youth, I just saw things that shined. The things that shine, that's what I went toward. As human beings, we are, this is my belief. As human beings, we are programmed. It's in our DNA to seek out things that give us pleasure, and we gravitate toward things that give us pleasure. But we, on the other side of the coin, we shun away from and avoid things that bring us pain and inconvenience. And I believe that's just in our nature. You gravitate toward the things that bring you pleasure and stay away from the things or shun or repel away from the things that bring us pain or inconvenience. I think those are two basic traits that human beings have. With
mhm.
that said, those were the things I sought, the things that brought me pleasure. The true measure of maturity, in my opinion, is understanding that everything that brings you pleasure that you may be gravitate toward may not always be good for you. And the thing
Mhm.
that you try to stay away from, avoid, or sidestep that bring you inconvenience or pain are not always bad for you. And the true mature level, the true measure of maturity is understanding the difference.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I'm really excited to continue this conversation. Obviously, we run out of time right now, but I am really looking forward to part two of this conversation. And as we talk through a lot of this, like I said, your experience is my experience as well. And so, um, my excitement about you being present with me and having this dialogue, it kind of has, it's always exciting, but the emotions kind of do this because as you talk, you're talking about my brother, and you're talking about our experience, and so uh, you know, we have a relationship. We've had a relationship over the years and been having conversations day after day after day and have built a certain kind of relationship. And it was like part two of our relationship because when you were home, you're just a big brother to me, and that was one kind of relationship. Then there was one that was formed while you were in prison, and obviously we're engaging in a new one now, and it's all good. But it's just to sit here and have a conversation with you. Um, it just feels like home. It's so easy. And I'm a conversationalist. I can communicate with anybody and love to do it. But being at home and having a conversation is a completely different thing. And so
Well,
I'm gonna try my best not to take up the airways with just you the whole time. But I'm really excited about
good luck.
this. So
Good luck.
I'm super excited to be able to introduce my brother to you, and I'm really excited for you to journey with us as we continue this conversation. So be sure to subscribe and come back for part two. And remember, we become better people by listening. And so the fastest way to understanding is by listening. Thank you, Raymond.
You're welcome. Glad to be here.
Now let me stop this.